There is a man I knew, a merchant named Yosef, 52 years old, who came to me 3 winters ago with hands that would not stop trembling. He sat in my study, surrounded by shelves holding texts older than any empire you can name, and he wept. Not the tears of a child, but the silent, broken weeping of someone who had built everything on sand and watched the tide finally come. He had money more than most, we'll see, in 10 lifetimes, 3 homes, investments that seemed untouchable, a family business passed down through 4 generations. And yet, he said to me, "Rabbi, I am hollow. Everything I touch turns to ash in my mouth." His wealth had not abandoned him. Something far worse had happened. He had abandoned himself, and he did not even know when it began. I am going to tell you about a spiritual sickness that the ancient texts call it the fracturing of the soul. In Hebrew, we have a word, poretz gator, which means one who breaks through boundaries, but not in the way the world celebrates today. This is not about ambition. This is about violation, the violation of your own sacred limits. And when you violate them long enough, consistently enough, something inside you does not bend, it breaks completely. And I have watched this destroy more lives than poverty ever could, because a poor man knows what he lacks. But a man fractured from within does not even recognize his own face in the mirror anymore. You see, the world has taught you a lie so convincing that even intelligent people believe it without question. They tell you that rest is laziness, that boundaries are weakness, that if you are not constantly expanding, constantly achieving, constantly proving yourself, you are falling behind. And so you run. You push past tiredness. You ignore the signals your body sends you. You silence the quiet voice that says, "Enough, not yet, slow down." You call this discipline. The Torah calls this arrogance, because you are declaring that you know better than the rhythm woven into creation itself. You are saying that the laws that govern the rising and setting of the sun somehow do not apply to you. Let me take you back to a moment in my own life that I am not proud of. I was 29 years old. I had been invited to deliver a series of teachings in 3 different cities over the course of 12 days. Important gatherings, influential people, opportunities that in my mind I could not refuse. My wife, Sarah, looked at me the morning I was preparing to leave and said something I can still hear in her exact tone. She said, "Shimon, you have not rested in 40 days. Your eyes are dim. You are speaking to our children as if they are strangers. Please do not go." And I looked at her with what I thought was strength, but was actually contempt. I said, "This is the work I was called to do. I cannot stop because I'm tired." I left that morning, and I delivered those teachings with precision, with passion, with what everyone told me was brilliance. But on the 9th day, something happened that I will carry until my last breath. I was standing before 200 people in the middle of explaining a passage from Deuteronomy, and suddenly the words disappeared, not from the text from my mind. I stood there, frozen silent, staring at faces that were beginning to shift from respect to confusion to pity. 30 seconds passed, then a minute, and then I collapsed. Not dramatically, I simply folded like a coat falling from a hanger. When I woke, I was in a small clinic. The doctor, an older man with kind eyes, told me My body had simply shut down. Exhaustion, dehydration, something deeper he could not name. But what terrified me most was not the physical collapse. It was what I felt inside. Nothing. Not fear, not relief, not even embarrassment. Just an vast, cold emptiness. I had pushed so hard, ignored so many signals that I had severed myself from the part of me that feels, that knows, that connects. I had fractured my own soul, and it took me 3 years to repair what I destroyed in 40 days. Now, I want you to understand the mechanism behind this. Why does this happen? Why does ignoring your limits not just tire you, but actually break something spiritual inside you? The Talmud teaches that every human being is created with what we call a Tzelem Elohim, an image of the divine. This is not metaphorical. This is structural. You are not just a body with thoughts. You are a vessel designed to hold light, wisdom, presence. But that vessel has a capacity, not because it is weak, but because it is precise. When you pour water into a cup beyond its brim, the water does not make the cup stronger. It spills. It is wasted. And if you keep pouring with force, the cup cracks. Your soul operates the same way. Every time you push past your true capacity, not your fear, your true limit, you create a fracture, small at first, barely noticeable, but fractures compound, and one day you wake up and realize you have become someone you do not recognize. You have opinions you do not believe. You make decisions that betray your values. You feel nothing where you used to feel everything. This is not burnout. Burnout is exhaustion. This is disintegration. And the tragedy is that you did it to yourself, believing you were being strong. There is a teaching in the Zohar that most people never encounter. It says that the soul requires 3 types of nourishment to remain whole. The first is connection to the Creator, to others, to purpose. The second is rest not as cessation of work, but as sacred return to stillness. And the third is boundaries, knowing where you end and where the demands of the world must stop. When any one of these is missing, the soul begins to dim. When all 3 are missing, it shatters. And here is what you must understand. A shattered soul does not announce itself with sirens. It whispers. It shows up as irritability you cannot explain, as numbness toward things you used to love, as a strange, persistent feeling that nothing you do matters, even when you are succeeding. I have seen this in a young woman, 34 years old, named Leah, who built a business from nothing. She came to me 2 years ago, and when I asked her why she was there, she said something that struck me. She said, "Rabbi, I'm winning, but I feel like I'm dying." She worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. She had not taken a full day of rest in 3 years, not one. She told herself she would rest when the business was stable, when the revenue hit a certain number, when she had proven herself. But that day never came because the goal kept moving. And meanwhile, her friendships dissolved, her health declined, her joy, the thing that made her want to build something in the first place, vanished completely. I asked her a question that seemed simple, but unlocked everything. I said, "Leah, if you are not present to enjoy what you are building, who is it for?" She stared at me, and then she started to cry, because she realized she had been building a monument to her fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear of being ordinary, fear of disappointing people. who were not even watching. I gave her an instruction that she resisted with everything in her. I told her to close her business every single Friday at sunset and not open it again until Sunday morning. A full day non-negotiable. She looked at me like I had asked her to set fire to everything she owned. Rabbi, I will lose clients. Opportunities will pass me by. Competitors will overtake me. And I said, perhaps. Or perhaps you will discover that the world does not collapse when you stop holding it up. She agreed reluctantly, more out of desperation than belief. The first week was agony for her. She told me later she spent most of that Saturday pacing, anxious, checking her phone every few minutes, even though she had turned off notifications. But by the fourth week, something shifted. She noticed she could think clearly again. Ideas came to her not forced, but naturally like water returning to a dry riverbed. And by the third month, her business had not suffered. It had grown, not because she worked more, but because she worked whole. Her clients noticed the difference. Her decisions became sharper. Her creativity returned. And for the first time in years, she felt like herself again. Now let me give you the exact practice that rebuilds what has been fractured. This is not theory. This is a precise method handed down through generations, refined through centuries of human struggle. You will do this every single week without exception. Choose one day, the same day, every week, and mark it as untouchable. Not a day off, a holy day, a day where you do not produce, do not achieve, do not prove anything. You simply exist as you were created to exist. Here is how you prepare. The evening before your chosen day, you will perform what we call the ritual of release. Light a candle in a quiet room. Sit before it and speak out loud everything you are carrying, every worry, every unfinished task, every expectation. Do not write it. Speak it. Because spoken words leave the body in a way thoughts do not. Then say these words with full intention. I release my grip on what I cannot control. I trust that what is mine will remain. I honor the rhythm I was given. Then extinguish the candle and go to sleep. When you wake on your sacred day, do not check your phone. Do not read news. Do not engage with anything that pulls you into the noise of the world. Instead, spend the first hour in complete silence. Not meditation, not prayer, just silence. Sit, walk, be. Let your mind wander. Let your soul remember what it feels like to exist without a task. Then and only then spend the day doing things that require nothing of you. Read something beautiful. Sit with someone you love without agenda. Eat slowly. Notice details you normally miss, the way light falls through a window, the texture of bread, the sound of birds. This is not leisure. This is recalibration. You are teaching your soul that it is safe to be, not just to do. And here is what will happen, not might will. In the first 2 weeks, you will feel restless, guilty, like you are wasting time. This is normal. You are withdrawing from an addiction to productivity. But by the third week, you will notice something extraordinary. The other 6 days of your week will become more potent. Your focus will sharpen. Your energy will last. Your ideas will come faster and clearer. Why? Because you are no longer running on fumes. You are running on reserves that have been replenished. Within 2 months, people around you will notice you have changed, even if they cannot name what is different. You will be more present, more patient, more alive. And within 6 months, you will look back and realize that the thing you feared losing by resting your edge, your drive, your relevance, you actually gained by releasing the fear that you had to hold everything together yourself. Now, I must tell you something difficult. Many of you will hear this teaching and agree with it. You will nod. You will feel inspired. And then you will do nothing. Because the fracture inside you has convinced you that you are the exception, that your situation is different, that you cannot afford to rest. Not yet. Not until. And this is exactly how the fracture deepens. So I'm going to ask you to do something uncomfortable. Stop lying to yourself. You can rest. You simply choose not to. And that choice is costing you more than you realize. It is costing you your peace, your health, your relationships, your joy. And eventually, if you do not change, it will cost you everything. There is a law woven into creation that the world refuses to teach you. The law is this sustained force, breaks all things. A tree that does not bend in the wind snaps. A river that does not curve erodes its own banks. And a human being who does not rest fractures from within. But a tree that bends survives the storm. A river that curves nourishes the land. And a soul that honors its limits becomes unbreakable. Not because it is hard, but because it is whole. I want you to picture something with me. Imagine that your life is a clay vessel. Every day you fill it with responsibilities, with tasks, with expectations, with the weight of proving yourself. And every day you add more, believing that a strong vessel can hold anything. But clay, no matter how well fired, has a breaking point. And when it breaks, it does not break cleanly. It shatters into pieces so small that some can never be recovered. Now imagine a different vessel, one that is filled each day, yes, but also emptied, poured out intentionally, regularly, completely. This vessel does not weaken from the emptying. It strengthens, because it never holds more than it was designed to carry. And when pressure comes, when weight increases, it does not shatter. It endures. You must become the second vessel, not by doing less, but by honoring the rhythm of filling and emptying, work and rest, effort and release, striving and surrender. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. The sages teach something that will stay with you if you let it. They say that the world was created in 6 days, and on the 7th, the Creator rested, not because the Creator was tired, but to establish a pattern, a rhythm, a law. If the infinite source of all power chose to rest, what arrogance makes you believe you should not? And here's the part that will change everything if you truly hear it. Rest is not the absence of work. Rest is the completion of work. You do not rest because you are done. You rest because rest itself is part of the creation. Without it, nothing you build will last. I have watched brilliant people destroy themselves because they believed rest was optional. I have watched marriages crumble because one person could not stop long enough to be present. I have watched businesses collapse, not from lack of effort, but from leaders so fractured they could no longer see clearly. And I have watched people once vibrant and full of life become shadows of themselves, going through motions they no longer understand, chasing goals they no longer want, trapped in a momentum they no longer control. And the saddest part is, they do not know how to stop. Because stopping feels like failure. But let me tell you what failure actually is. Failure is not resting. Failure is running so hard that you forget why you started. Failure is achieving everything you thought you wanted and feeling nothing. Failure is looking at your life from the outside and being impressed, but looking at it from the inside and feeling empty. That is failure. So here is your choice, and it is a choice you must make today, not tomorrow, today. You can continue as you have been pushing, striving, ignoring every signal your soul sends you, until one day you break in a way that cannot be hidden. Or you can choose the harder, braver path. The path of honoring your limits, of protecting your soul, of building a life that is not just impressive to others, but sustainable for you. And when you make that choice, when you finally release the belief that you must carry everything yourself, something miraculous happens. You do not fall apart. You fall together. The pieces that scattered begin to return. The emptiness begins to fill. The numbness gives way to feeling. And you remember, perhaps for the first time in years, what it feels like to be whole. This is not a promise of ease. This is a promise of integrity. When you align with the rhythm you are given, when you stop violating your own sacred boundaries, you do not just survive, you become truly alive. And that aliveness is what the world is actually hungry for, not your productivity, not your achievements, your presence, your wholeness, your light. So I leave you with this. Tonight, before you sleep, sit in silence for 5 minutes, just 5, and ask yourself one question. When was the last time I felt whole? Not happy, not successful, whole. If you cannot remember, that is your answer. The fracture is real, but fractures can heal. They heal when you stop pretending they are not there. They heal when you honor the limits that protect you. They heal when you remember that you are not a machine designed for endless output. You are a soul, precious and finite, deserving of rest, of care, of gentleness. Treat yourself accordingly and watch what becomes possible. When you do, may you find the courage to stop. May you find the wisdom to rest. And may you rediscover the wholeness that was always meant to be yours.